Over the last few weeks, there have been tons of mixed reports in regards to the health of North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un. Some sources claimed he had either died or was near death, while conflicting reports out of South Korea claimed he is alive and well. It seems no one can be sure what's going on regarding Kim, although North Korea is reporting that he has been doing his regular duties as of late. For more on what happened to Kim Jong-un, check out our other video, which goes in depth about the rumors and his health. Today on Life's Biggest Questions, we're going to talk about the top 10 scary things that would happen if Kim Jong-un actually passed away. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to LBQ. I'm your host once again, Jared Bronstein, and make sure you let us know your thoughts on this video in the comments down below. We'll wrap this one up with some bonus content, but for now, let's get into it with number 10. North Korea hides the fact that he's dead as long as they can. As you may or may not know, North Korea's media is entirely controlled by the government, meaning they decide what the people see in their country, as well as what everyone outside the country sees in regards to North Korea. When Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il, died back in 2011, the people of North Korea were informed 2 days after the date of his passing. At that point, the news would break internationally, but considering how the country's leader had been dead for 2 days before anyone outside of his immediate circle knew is quite scary. When Jong-il died in 2011, the political party in power quickly had to get their affairs in order before officially introducing Kim Jong-un as the country's new leader and his father's successor or heir to the throne. Some sources claim the leader has 3 children, 2 being female and 1 male. The male is believed to be 10 years old, so he would not be fit to take over. This leads a big question mark in regards to who would be in charge, which we'll get to later. Number 9, North Korea acts like everything is fine. Regardless of what is actually happening in the country, whether they are preparing to go to war with a neighboring country or the Kim regime is struggling to maintain power, the outside world, they'll act like nothing has changed. Business as usual, if you will. Obviously, there would be a funeral for the late Kim Jong-un, which would likely take place 10 days after his death, and to no surprise, be considered a celebration of life more than anything. Much like his late father and grandfather, Kim Jong-un would eventually get a statue in his honor put up next to his predecessors. And as always, North Korea would only allow the outside world to know what they wanted us to know, unless some sort of intel were to come from an informant. As far as we're concerned, the country would be running as it always did, and it's more likely than not that by this point, a new leader would have been introduced both to the country and the world. Moving on to number 8, the United States, as well as other countries, would increase their surveillance of North Korea. Upon finding out that their leader is officially dead, the United States would want to gather as much information as quickly as possible. Of course, the whole world would be interested in knowing what would happen next. Who would lead the country? What does this mean for the military? Out of fear of being attacked, North Korea may decide to attack their southern neighbors, which could potentially lead to a war involving the United States, a close ally of South Korea. This may lead to an increase of US military presence in South Korea, which wouldn't necessarily be alarming, more so precautionary. The two countries have been known to do joint exercises in the past, so it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for US military presence to be in the country. However, this point also leads into our next point. Number 7, fears of war would spread. There's no telling how the next leader of the country would behave, especially after coming into so much power so quickly. And as you can imagine, there would be a worldwide fear, regardless of how heightened, that a war may break out. North Korea could see the increased US presence in South Korea as threatening, or it's possible they simply attack a country out of fear that the world thinks they are weak due to their leader's passing. Many professionals fear that it's possible China could try to take over North Korea and absorb their nuclear weapons, or North Korea's new appointed leader could try to make a statement that they should be feared and order an attack. Some countries would likely be more fearful and have their guard up more so than others, but you can be sure the North American media would be all over the story and would try to push the narrative that a war is pending. Number 6, Kim's sister takes over. It's widely believed if Kim does kick the bucket sooner than later, his sister Kim Yo-jong would step in as North Korea's new leader. Being one of Kim's closest advisors, accompanying him on many of his trips, and appearing to be well respected across the board, it would make the most sense for Kim Yo-jong to take over. And although this is what many professionals are predicting, it seems no one can say for sure, because as we know, North Korea keeps things close to the chest. Matthew Henderson, who used to work with foreign affairs, explained the regime, I quote, behaves in an entirely alien manner, making it impossible to predict or assess their next move. Now, Yo-jong has been seen with her brother at meetings with President Trump and was sent to represent North Korea at the 2018 Winter Olympics. But even before then, she was the one doing the country's duties in 2014 during her brother's absence due to a surgery, and she's currently in charge of the country's propaganda. That being said, from what we do know about the country's politics and some of their beliefs in general, Kim Yo-jong, being a woman, may not be seen as a good fit to lead the country. Although some claim she is respected and feared by all, Others claim she's given the respect because of who her brother is, citing that she hasn't really done much to actually get to where she is on her own. Now, this next point depends on if Kim's sister does take over and whether or not she is in fact well respected, but either way, here's number 5. Kim's sister gets overthrown. Now, I don't know who would do it. The people, someone who's a part of her political party, maybe even a relative. All I'm saying is, given North Korea's views, particularly when it comes to women being in power, well, they just aren't for it. There's never been a woman in power, and considering how socially conservative the country is, the closest thing they've gotten to having a woman in power would be giving Kim Jong-un's wife, Ri Sol-ju, the title of First Lady. That happened in 2018. So as you can clearly see, at least in comparison to the majority of the rest of the world, North Korea is trailing behind when it comes to advancing socially. And this may lead to unrest in the country where a woman has control. Now, it's important to mention, Kim does also have 3 children, as I said before, and although sources vary, it's believed he has 2 girls and a boy. Normally, the boy would be next in line to take over, but it's believed he's about 10 years old. It's possible Kim Yo-jong is a temporary leader until Kim Jong-un's son is old enough to rule, whenever that may be. Moving on to number 4, the regime collapses. As crazy as it sounds, a lot of experts believe North Korea's regime is a ticking time bomb. As they say, history repeats itself, and North Korea really has been an anomaly when looking at family dictatorships. According to foreignpolicy.com, I quote, 12 out of 18 family dictatorships in place since World War II have collapsed, with the average lasting 32 years. In contrast, the North Korean regime has endured for over 7 decades, despite famine, economic crisis, international sanctions, and restrictions on foreign trades, as well as 2 transitions of power, end quote. It goes on to explain that aside from this, there hasn't been a challenge from either the military or the people of North Korea. But it seems to only be a matter of time, considering how most failed regimes fall quickly, unexpectedly, and within a year of first signs of crisis. Somehow, the Kim family has avoided the collapse, even though they've gone through multiple incidences where experts thought it was the beginning of the end. But who knows? Maybe this is officially now the beginning of the end. Now on to number 3, there's a race for the nukes. Now this one more so depends on if the regime collapses, but even if it doesn't collapse and China just sees Kim's death as a chance to expand their power, it's possible they try to secure the stock of nuclear weapons and assets North Korea has. Obviously, this is of interest to the United States and South Korea as well, who would try to find a way to make sure the weapons didn't get into the wrong hands. This also raises the concern that specific organizations whose goal is to simply spread hate try to get their hands on the weapons as well. And for those of you who don't know what I mean by that, well, I'm talking about terrorizers, as some have referred to them in the past. Now, this doesn't mean the US would send military personnel to go and pick up a nuke and carry it back to the States. But they may create a barrier of sorts, with the help of South Korea's military, just to ensure that nuclear weapons don't go anywhere anytime soon. On to number 2, world relations change. I can't say for better or for worse, as it depends on what happens to the country in general. Kim's sister may handle her business differently compared to, say, Kim's half-brother if he were to take over. Although it's likely safe to assume anyone in power would have the same ideologies and beliefs as the country's current leader, things change. And when you're given control of an entire country, especially so quickly, who's to say the power wouldn't go to that person's head? And maybe they want to change the way North Korea is run. They want it to be more of a free country, so they loosen restrictions regarding life in general over there. It's also possible the new leader wants to show they're more fearful and scary than Kim Jong-un and decides to launch an attack of some kind to show a sign of what's to come. I can't say for sure, but one thing is for sure, a new leader would change North Korea's relationship with other countries. Whether that's for the better or worse is yet to be determined. Now at number 1, the world gets involved. Now this is scary because we don't know how each country would react. Maybe the United States and Canada and the majority of Europe just spreads the news of the leader's death and anxiously awaits their next move. Other countries may see this as an opportune time to expand, like what I said about China. Some countries may decide to go for the nuclear weapons, while others may increase their surveillance of the country or decide to deploy troops overseas just because they feel North Korea is in a weakened position. If this were the case, then retaliation from North Korea and their new leader may lead to bigger problems that just continue to snowball. With the hope of celebrating their late leader's life and praise all that he had done for them, the last thing North Korea would want is the rest of the world breathing down their necks. They would see other countries' participation in foreign affairs during their time as mourning as a huge sign of disrespect. So it may be best that we all tread lightly, something I feel wouldn't happen. And who knows what the repercussions of this could be. Possible wars, newly formed alliances between countries we'd rather not see team up, There's no telling for sure. But as always, I want to know your thoughts on this one in the comments below. Which one of these numbers do you guys think is the most realistic to happen if Kim does bite the dust? Let us know below, and I also will say I'm not a fortune teller. I can't say that I 100% guarantee all of this will happen for sure, but based on what experts and insiders believe, it seems this is quite likely to happen when Kim does die. For now, let's reply to some comments from the video. Top 10 scary North Korean urban legends you won't believe exist. Gistadio, who's a hero for fun, said, actually, Kim turned himself into a pickle. Right. So, are you telling me now we have Pickle Rick and Pickle Kim? Because, you know, if we could get like a pickle, maybe a Pickle Donald, maybe we'll have a trifecta. I'm just saying. Subhurt said, these sound just like Japanese folklores. Yeah, like I said, a lot of them, and I saw a lot of your comments saying that these were South Korean Japanese. I found that a lot of them kind of just were inspired by others, so it was hard to find the original one. Yes, I will say a lot of them did come from South Korea, but then North Korea adapted them and slightly changed them, or North Korea just simply believes in them as well. So, you know, that's just why they were included on the list. Random Ideas said, the second one, apparently, if you give a mixed answer, she will get confused and you can escape. Again, different sources say different things. You know, some said that if you say one thing to her, one thing happens. Others said that you could say other things. Some claim that she goes after just children. Some claim she just goes after men. You know, with these urban legends and myths, they always change over the years, which again goes back to the origin. Maybe some came out of Japan, maybe some came out of South Korea, but they've expanded to North Korea, which is why they were where they were at. Anyways, guys, that's it for this one. I'm going to wrap it up. I've been your host, Jared Bronstein. You guys have been watching LBQ. We'll see you in the next one.